What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be checking out a video from Celtic History Decoded, the hidden links between eye color and ancestry.
I feel like this is going to be a super fun, really interesting topic.
Yeah, me too.
Obviously, we're both interested in ancestry to some degree. So how that plays into eye color and all that.
Yeah, where did my blue eyes actually come from originally?
I feel like, I don't know why, but I feel like I've seen several comments over the many months we've been doing this together that people thought we were brother and sister. And
yeah, that's true. I have seen that.
In real life, like, we have totally different eye colors. Not to say that brother and sisters can't have this different eye colors.
Yeah.
But, like, to me, we don't look that similar.
I don't see it. I don't see it.
My eye color, it's probably hard to tell on video.
You don't know what your eye color is, technically.
Not really, I don't. Yours is for sure blue.
But she's been saying forever that she's green, but now she's like hesitating to be like, well, am I Hazel? What does that mean?
I've never actually looked up what Hazel eye color is. So.
You've just always looked in the mirror and said, okay, green eyes, right? Like, yeah. Sophia has blue eyes, sure. Very, very blue eyes. You know, it's interesting. When we were visiting my family, I was sitting there. We were at this.
We were at dinner with.
Well, it was lunch.
Lunch, whatever.
And we were like out doing this museum fun thing with my family, and we had, let's see, I don't know how many people we had there.
Like 8?
Yeah, I think we had like 8 people there, and I was just looking around and realized, oh my goodness.
He called me out.
We all had blue eyes except for her. She was the only one without blue eyes. And it was just like, wow, that's interesting because even, well, I'm not going to get into it. Someone that's part of my family, but not blood.
Not related.
Not by blood. He had blue eyes too. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Like, how many people did I grow up with that had blue eyes? And then I got thinking about all my grandparents, everybody in my family that I've ever known, all my cousins, everybody had blue eyes, which I think that's really fascinating.
But both my mom and dad, my mom has like greenish blue. My dad has green eyes.
Yeah.
I have green eyes, or I think I do. My brother.
Your mom, you sure she doesn't have blue? I could swear.
Hers are like bluish green. They're kind of like a sea foam color.
And your brother? He has blue?
Yeah.
Really?
No.
He has green.
Yeah.
What if your eye colour holds a secret, passed down through thousands of years of ancestry? From icy blue eyes in Northern Europe to deep hazel tones in Iberia, every shade tells a story.
Hold on. Did you see the hazel?
I was go back.
Hold on.
I might be Hazel.
You might be.
Because didn't you say my irises, like, around the middle have
like this,
like a rust gold color?
Yeah, or so orange, brown, rust type of color.
Hazel.
Okay.
In Europe to deep hazel tones in Iberia, every shade tells a story. So in this video, we're going to explore the fascinating links between eye colour and ancestry. Now look at this table. It shows the breakdown of eye colours.
Okay, so
World's population by eye color.
70 to 80% brown. Wow, that's incredible. Wow. 8 to 10% blue, 5% hazel, 5% amber. Green is only 2%. Wow.
I wonder what a true green eye color would be then.
Yeah, well, I think we're probably going to see. I think it's going to break it down by each eye color. So
across the globe. As you can see, brown is by far the most common, at around 70 to 80% of the world's population. Depending on the source, either grey or green eyes is considered the rarest eye colour on Earth.
I've never seen grey eyes, I don't think.
Please let me know your eye colour and ancestry in the comments below. Now, varying levels of melanin is the main driver of your eye colour, which is largely driven by genetic mutations in the OCA2 and HERC2 genes. Gender also seems to influence eye colour to some degree.
Really?
Various studies have shown that men are more likely to have blue eyes than women, which could be linked to higher estrogen levels. Now let's look at all the different eye colours and their ancestral links. First up is brown eyes, the original human eye colour, and at one point all human beings had brown eyes.
Wow.
They are caused by a very high concentration of melanin in the iris, a protective pigment that helps shield the eyes from ultraviolet radiation. From an ancestral perspective, brown eyes have always been advantageous near the equator, most notably in Africa, of course. This higher concentration of melanin in brown eyes offers much more protection against intense sunlight than, say, blue eyes.
Okay, so that makes sense of why, generally speaking, people with blue eyes come from the more northern climates on average, right?
Yeah.
That's
Paler
true.
skin,
Yeah.
lighter eyes. Yeah.
Right. So you don't need quite as much protection from the sunlight in those regions.
Right.
So that means I probably don't want to go live on a tropical island.
Not ideally,
In the equator,
no.
ideally, not just because of skin tone, but because of my eyes as well.
Right, yeah.
Maybe that's why I need sunglasses on really sunny days quite a bit.
Yeah. I disagree with sunglasses for the most part, but
I understand. I mean, like I'm saying, but if it's a really strong sunny day.
I think when you're driving, sunglasses are good.
Yeah.
You know, so you're not
Well,
blinded.
it's good to get some sun in your eyes.
But
during
when
the
you're
day.
out in direct sunlight, I think it's a bad idea to wear sunglasses because then it messes with your
Circadian rhythm.
photoreceptors in your eyes
Yeah.
to know when to get out in the sun.
That's
Yeah.
very true.
Now, you sometimes see people refer
That's
to
pretty.
black eyes, but from a biological perspective, they are typically extremely dark brown. While they may appear black to the naked eye,
I can see brown.
Yeah, I sort of say I can see brown there. They're not really. I could understand at a glance. Maybe you would see them as black. I started saying when you said black eyes, I've never seen anybody with black eyes before.
I just saw someone the other day in a mugshot who
Really?
their eyes looked black.
But they probably weren't. They probably were actually dark
Maybe. It might have just
dark
been
brown,
the lighting,
right?
but-
under strong lighting, they usually reveal brown or reddish tones. Now, look at this table. It shows the breakdown of brown
Oh,
eyes
that's
per
interesting.
region of the globe.
This is brown. Mm-hmm. Sub-Saharan
Per region
Africa.
of the globe, so-
Wow.
In Europe, only 30 to 50%.
Wow. Okay. You know, I wonder where you see the 99, 98%. What is the other 1% most likely to be, or the other 0.5% or whatever? You know what I mean? Like if it's over 99% in an area, say sub-Saharan African, what is
Right.
the other 1% or less
That's
made up
true.
of on
That's
average?
a good question.
But
Did you see though in Europe overall 30
here.
to 50%, but Southern Europe has 70 to 90% brown.
That's interesting.
Which makes sense. You're closer to the equator.
That's true.
Northern Europe less than 20% brown.
So that means someone in, say, Italy, for example, or Greece is much more likely to have brown eyes than someone in the UK or even France or Germany or Ireland or
Yeah, the thing I find
Scandinavian countries.
The thing I find really interesting, though, is East Asia, China, Japan, Korea. That's not so close to the equator. But look at the 99%.
That's true. So, like, it's not
eyes.
universal, but I wonder if their ancestry lived closer to the equator much more recently than, say, my ancestry did.
I don't know.
I don't know. That's very interesting. You're right, though. Like, you see a dominant brown eye population in some more northern regions, such as in China. But, there's a big difference between southern China and northern China. So I'd be curious to see, is there some kind of difference there as well? But to be honest, I don't think when it comes to Asian people, I don't think I've ever seen any blue-eyed,
Not
green-eyed
naturally. Like,
Asian
I've
people.
seen Asians wear contacts or something.
Right.
But,
But not naturally. You don't see
I don't
that.
think so.
I wonder if there are any Asian people that naturally have blue eyes and
I mean,
green
I'm
eyes.
sure there's...
Yeah, I've just never seen it before.
Some anomalies. But
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Australia non-indigenous, so 50 to 70%
based
brown
on
eyes.
mixed European descent.
Wow.
Indigenous Australians are 95%. Wow.
They are highest in sub-Saharan Africa and East Asia, of course, at over 99%. North Africa shows a little more variability though, at around 90 to 95%. Colours like hazel and green are slightly more common here, and we even see
Where?
grey eyes in some Berber populations of North Africa
North
that we
Africa.
will discuss later. What is interesting is that the different regions of Europe show an incredible level of variability of brown eyes, as this table shows. People in southern Europe, in places like Spain, Italy, Greece and Portugal, have much higher levels of brown eyes than people in northern Europe. It's 70 to 90%,
Wow, look at that, 20 to
compared to
30%.
20 to 30% in the north. Various factors influence this. These include climate and also admixture events, as southern Europe had much more contact with North African ancestry than northern
Makes
Europe down
sense,
through
yeah.
history.
Yeah.
And speaking of Europe, this leads us nicely on to blue eyes. Now, blue eyes are obviously a key marker of European ancestry, and they're very old on the continent. This is Cheddar Man, for instance, a 10,000-year-old hunter-gatherer who lived in ancient England, and we know that he probably had blue eyes or blue-green eyes. We know this because he had the mutations in the HER2 and OCA2 genes, which are the main cause of lighter eyes through reducing melanin production. And he wasn't an isolated case. Many other European hunter-gatherers had blue eyes or lighter eyes in general. Despite their appearance though, blue eyes actually have no blue pigment in them at all. Instead, they have a relatively low amount of melanin, which allows light to be scattered in the iris, leading to a blue-looking colour. This is a similar process to why the sky looks blue. Today, blue eyes are the second most common eye colour in the world, found in around 8 to 10% of people. They're obviously most common in Europe, especially in Northern Europe and Northeast Europe.
All right, so
Scandinavia and the
wow, 70 to 90%. Wow. UK, Ireland, France, 20 to 50%. That's interesting. Blue eyes frequent in Ireland and Scotland, 50 to 6. Wow. I didn't realize it would be that high.
Me either.
I thought there would be a lot more, just a mix of green, some brown, blue, and all together.
I don't know why, but I've always associated green eye color with Ireland. I guess because of the green.
The Emerald Isle. Yeah,
but,
I mean, it makes sense. Wow, that's interesting. Look at this down here, though. Blue eyes.
Wow.
Blue eyes do not naturally occur in Southeast Asia. Do not. Wow. Which, I mean, that makes sense to me. Very close to the equator and whatnot. And only seen due to rare mutations or admixture in
East Asia,
Sub-Saharan
practically non-existent naturally. Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting.
It really is.
Highest in places like the Baltic states, Scandinavia and Finland. Climate is probably a key reason for this, given the dark, wintry environment of Northern Europe.
That's true.
We know in general that lighter eyes are more sensitive to light, and blue eyes seem to perform better in low lighting conditions than brown eyes, as a 2024 paper found. From an evolutionary perspective, one obvious benefit of this would be that blue-eyed individuals had a better ability to hunt in low-light conditions than darker-eyed individuals. Various other factors also played a role though, and I do discuss these in a previous video on the origin and reason for blue eyes in general. Outside of Europe, we also see blue eyes in some other populations. The Americas is the prime example of this. In North America, around 15 to 30% of people have blue eyes. Further south in Latin America, we see blue eyes in between 1 and 10% of people.
That makes sense, though, because a lot of Latin America their ancestry originated over, specifically in Spain, especially when you're talking about Mexico and, some of the South America, obviously.
Argentina or
Brazil.
But Spain wasn't one of the more common eye colors brown.
But you probably did have some blue eye that crossed over and came here and mixed with the indigenous population of the Americas at the time.
These levels are largely a result of European admixture, either through the direct migration of European families or through peoples mixing with Europeans.
Practically non-existent naturally in East
Various events
Asia.
down through history played a role in this spread, but the age of European empires and colonisation was a key episode. The likes of the Spanish, the Portuguese, the British, the Dutch, the French spread European genes across the world, with the genes for blue eyes part of this spread. What about hazel eyes though? Well, they get their name from the hazelnut, and they make up around 5% of the world's population.
So, okay, that I don't consider hazel.
That doesn't look like your eye color to me.
No, that is definitely not what my eyes look.
You have
A lot of green on the outside.
You have a lot of green, and then you have just
a little bit of
some of this rusty color,
just a tiny
in the center a little bit.
Hazel eyes are found in a wide range of ethnic groups, but they are most common in people of Brazilian, Middle Eastern and North African or Spanish descent. A 2009 study, for instance, found that 55.2% of their Spanish cohort had hazel green eyes. In the United States, about 18% of people have this eye colour, reflecting the mixed European ancestries there. As I noted a previous...
That is so interesting to me, because so far in my ancestry, I haven't found any.
I'm beginning to think you're not hazel. I begin to think you are green, and you just have this little mixture of color in your green eyes.
Because I don't have any of that in my family.
Your eyes don't look like this.
No.
Your eyes don't have that much of like a brown, yellow, oranges type of tint.
Okay, maybe I'm green.
Previous video on Iberian
You always thought you were.
and hazel eyes. They're often found in populations where blue and brown-eyed ancestry has mixed, such as in Iberia.
That's
now,
interesting.
hazel eyes can often appear more green or more brown. And the concentration of melanin is somewhere in between blue eyes and brown eyes.
It looks
somewhere
great
in
to
the
me.
middle,
Yeah,
with
actually
brown
does.
having a lot of melanin and blue having little. A yellow pigment called lipochrome is also usually present as well. This blend allows hazel irises to reflect a mosaic of colours. The science behind hazel eyes is essentially a combination of really scattering on one hand, which is the same phenomenon behind blue eyes, and a moderate amount of melanin in the iris. Next up is amber eyes, which are of a
Amber.
solid golden yellow hue, often compared to the rich colour
Honey.
of honey. This eye colour is distinct from hazel,
I don't know if
and
I've ever seen
amber eyes
anybody with
usually
amber
do
eyes.
not show the mixed greens or browns that hazel eyes do. Instead, they're more of a uniform gold, copper or russet tone. The golden tint comes from the presence of lots of lipochrome, this yellow pigment in the iris, coupled with low to moderate melanin. In the animal kingdom, many creatures have amber eyes. For instance, wolves, domestic
That's
cats,
true.
That's beautiful.
owls and eagles often exhibit yellow or orange irises due to similar pigments. They are sometimes known as wolf eyes due to this. In humans, however, pure amber eyes are quite rare, occurring in an estimated 5% of people worldwide. The highest numbers of people with amber eyes are found in Europe, especially southern Europe and places
1
like
to 3% in
we
North
also see them
America.
at elevated levels in the Middle East and the Caucasus, as well as North Africa, Latin America and North America to some level. Because amber eyes can sometimes be mistaken for hazel or light brown, their exact distribution is not well documented.
It's interesting
Now,
how
one of the
they're
most
literally
enigmatic and
nowhere
rarest
with a
eye
lot.
colours is green,
They're a very small
found
population.
in only 2%, around 2% of the world's population. They are most common in people of
Yeah, I mean, I think you might be green.
Yeah.
I think you always said
Because
you
I
were.
mean, his look.
They
They,
ha-
have some yellow.
Yeah, they have some different coloring in
I
there.
don't know.
Celtic or Germanic ancestry, and they're also connected to the Vikings down through history to some degree. If you look at this table, you can see the countries that have the most people with green eyes, which are Ireland, Scotland and
Okay,
Iceland.
yeah.
They are also relatively common in places like Scandinavia and Germany. One study noted that among Americans of European descent, those with Celtic or Germanic heritage had the highest prevalence of green eyes, at around 16%. In Iceland, a survey found green eyes in about 18 to 20% of women
Wow.
and 8 to 10% of men. This hints at a curious sex difference when it comes to this eye colour. Now, true green eyes result from a combination of pigments on one hand and scattering. They have a moderate amount of melanin, plus this golden yellow pigment called lipochrome in the iris. When light enters, the brown melanin can give
Sorry, guys. I just want to look at the eye color because I'm trying to really.
I know it's hard. I kind of want to like take a picture of my eye somehow and then insert it into the video so you guys can judge too. But like,
I swear, like, I don't
I
know.
can't
It's hard to
tell.
tell. I think you've got green eyes. I think.
I mean, it just doesn't make sense if ancestrally speaking, like, I've gone back really far on both sides.
Yeah.
And haven't come across anything other than
Yeah.
Europe, basically, right?
Right.
a yellow or light brown cast, which mixes with blue light scattering from the stroma, producing green. From a historical perspective, it's plausible that green eyes emerged
That's
in
beautiful. I love
populations
that colour.
where blue eye variants and brown eye variants intermingled, although they do have a complex genetic makeup that isn't really fully understood yet. Some ancient DNA evidence hints that green eyes may have been present in Eurasia during the Bronze Age. A 2009 study, for instance, concluded that South Siberians were blue or green-eyed, fair-skinned and light-haired people, and that they might have played a role in the early development of the Tarim Basin civilization. Now, next up is another very rare eye colour, potentially the rarest eye colour in the world, grey. Now, estimates
Grey.
do seem to vary on how rare they are.
That almost
Almost
looks
looks like
blue.
mine. now.
Around 1% of the world's population have grey
Wow.
eyes, whereas others put the figure at more like 3%. Like blue eyes, grey eyes have a low level of melanin and rely
So fascinating looking at.
What is it called? Iridology?
Yeah.
Where you the study of the
Yeah.
iris.
I'd like to do that. I think that'd be
Supposedly
interesting.
You can tell a lot
About your health and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about iris.
on light scattering. But scientists think there's maybe an extra factor at play that distinguishes them from blue. One hypothesis is that grey eyes have more collagen deposits in the stroma, which is the front layer of the iris, which tend to scatter light differently. Others argue that grey and blue eyes might have different concentrations of melanin. What we do know is that under magnification, grey irises often show specks of yellow and brown pigment amidst the grey. Now, grey eyes are most commonly found in the same general regions as blue eyes, i.e. Northern and Eastern Europe. For example, grey eyes can be frequently seen among the people in the Baltic
Often
states,
mistaken for pale
Scandinavia,
blue.
as well as in parts of Russia. Some Vikings also seem to have had grey eyes and probably helped to spread this trait to some degree. Grey eyes also pop up in unexpected places though, likely due to ancient migrations. Certain Berber peoples in North Africa, for example, such as the Shawiya people of Algeria, have a higher occurrence of grey or grey-blue eyes, a legacy perhaps of Euro-Mediterranean gene flow over centuries. Grey or blue eyes can also be seen occasionally in the Middle East, Iran and South Asia. For instance, amongst the peoples of Afghanistan or northern India, reflecting admixture with Eurasian steppe ancestors or simply the diversity within those large populations. These instances remind us how human migrations and conquests have spread eye genes far and wide. But what is your eye colour? Please let me know in the comments below and let me know what your ancestry is as well.
Wow. That was interesting.
That was eye-opening.
Yeah, that's very eye-opening.
Yeah, I'm curious to know you guys' eye color as well.
Let us know in the comments.
And where you predominantly, like, your lineage comes from, if you know.
Yeah.
Because I find it really fascinating seeing, you know, the different regions that produce different eye colors.
I know. And it's interesting, there was like, 6 eye colors here? 7 when you count black?
Gray, amber, brown,
Green.
hazel, green, blue,
Gray.
black. 7.
7.
But I feel like black isn't, I don't know.
It's
I feel
interesting,
Like
there's
color, so 6.
There's a few of these I don't even know if I've ever seen before or that I recognize.
Gray.
Gray.
I've never seen someone in person with gray eyes.
I don't think I've ever seen someone in person with amber eyes. I don't believe.
I don't think so either.
And I'm not sure. Black eyes I've never. Maybe a mugshot like you said.
Like he was saying. It's
dark
usually
brown.
just a trick of the eye. Like,
Right.
Usually it's not.
Right, but like actual what I consider black eyes, I don't think I've ever actually seen that before.
No. Probably wouldn't want to.
It's one thing to have dark brown, but like
Right.
actual, if they were full on black,
You might have a problem.
that would be interesting. I don't think that exists. But so there's like a few of these that I'd never even seen before, which is interesting.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you how rare some of these colors really are. And I also find it really fascinating that how is it? Now, I understand that because of genetics, eye color runs in families, but how is it that I really realized that every single family member, I'm talking about, like, if I go back to all my grandparents, like, I've met my great-grandparents on at least one side. They had blue eyes, both of them. All 4 of my actual grandparents, blue eyes.
Oh my goodness.
My dad, my mom, all my cousins, my uncles, my aunts.
That's crazy that you remember all this because I have a really hard time remembering people's eye colors. I don't know why, but like it just doesn't register in my brain.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So,
it's not something I was actually thinking about.
I know my papa on my mom's side. My mom's dad had blue eyes, just like yours, just like Sophia's, and I want to say my mama had green eyes, but I'm not sure. She might have brown. I can't remember.
But I was just going to say, like, it blows my mind that, like, I'm talking, if I really think about it, I don't know, we'll just say 30 people in my family. We're talking cousins and whatnot. And all of them have blue eyes. Like, what is the likelihood of that?
Yeah, that's
like,
crazy.
That seems odd to me.
Yeah, it does.
Like, I mean, is that normal? If you know, is that normal for literally every single member of an extended family to have the same eye color?
Maybe you're misremembering.
No, I'm not. I 100%. I can tell you. I can remember my
Well, that's
grandparents and my
pretty cool.
great-grandparents, and I can
That's
remember
nice.
my uncles and different cousins and whatnot. Obviously, I can't think of every eye color of every single, like, my dad's. For example, my dad's mom, my grandma, had, I think, 8 brothers and sisters,
Oh my
and my dad's dad had something like 9 or 11 or something. And so, like, obviously, I don't remember each
All
and every
their
one of them.
colors.
There's some of them I
But
didn't
the
even ever
people
meet.
closest to you.
But yeah,
family.
all of them were blue, every one of them. And it's just kind of, I think that's fascinating. Like, is that normal or is that unusual?
Yeah.
Because, like you say, your family has a mix of different eye colors. within a range. Or green, hazel, maybe blue.
Yeah, I feel like nobody that I can really think of had brown eyes, but
Yeah.
maybe I'm misremembering. It's hard to say.
Anyways, guys, this was really fascinating.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments what your eye color is. How do your eye colors run in your family? Are they all the same, like in my situation, or are they mixed, like in Lindsay's situation?
And where do you come from?
Yeah, and where you ultimately come from if you know your lineage back sometime. But guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow us on our journey to discover anything and everything about the UK and Ireland, and sometimes odd off-topic topics
Ancestry.
like this. Till next time, guys. Peace.